भगवता नारायण स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथिताम पुराण मुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम अद्वैतमृतवर्षिणी भगवती अष्टादशाध्यायिनी आम त्वाम अनुसंधामि भगवत गीते भवद्वेषिणी नमो अस्तु ते व्यास विशाल बुद्धे फुल अरविंद आयत पत्र नेत्र येन तव्या भारत तैल पूर्णः प्रज्वलितो ज्ञान मया प्रदीपः प्रपन्न पारिजाताय स्तोत्र वेत्र एकपानये ज्ञान मुद्राय कृष्णाय गीता अमृत दुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपाल नंदना पार्थो वत्सा सुधीर भोगता दुग्धम गीता अमृतम महत वसुदेव सुतं देवं कंस चानूर मर्दनम देवकी परमानंदम कृष्णम वंदे जगत गुरुम भीष्म द्रोण तटा जयद्रथ जला गांधार नीलोत्पला शल्ये ग्राहवती कृपेन वहने कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्ण घोर मकरा दुर्योधन अवर्तने सोतीर्णा खलु पांडवैरन्नदी क्यवर्तका केशवा पाराशरे वत्सरोजमलं गीता अर्थगंधोटकम् नानाख्यानक केसरम हरिकथा संबोधन अबोधितम लोकै सज्जन षटपदे रह रह पेपिये मानम मुदा भूयाद भारत पंकजम कलिमल प्रध्वंसी न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं लंघ्यते गिरिम यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानंद माधवम् यम ब्रह्म वरुण इंद्र रुद्र मरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यस्तवे वेदै सांगपद क्रम उपनिषदै गायन्ति यम सामगा ध्यानवस्थे तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यम योगिनो यस्यन्तं न विदुसुर असुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः. We are on chapter 18, Moksha Sanyas Yoga, last chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And towards the end of this chapter, verse number 66, that's where we are. 66. I was telling you last time that this is the most controversial verse of Bhagavad Gita. The reason is that people don't understand this term dharma. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Sarva dharman paritajya mam ekam sharnam vraj aham tva sarva papebhya mokshishyami ma shucha. Sarva dharman, all dharms, paritajya, having abandoned. Mam means to me, ekam means alone, sharnam, refuge, vraj, take. Aham, I, tva, you, sarva papebhya, from all sins. Mokshishyami, will liberate. Ma means not, shucha means grieve or fear. So Lord Krishna is saying, abandoning all dharmas. Take refuge in me alone. I will liberate you from all sins. Grieve not. As I said, the key word over here is to understand dharma. A lot of people, they think dharma means the religion. The religion, the way we see religions these days, the Hindu, the Sikhs, the Christians, the Muslim, Jewish religion. No, that's not what he's talking about. None of those religions or the isms were there at that time when this truth was spoken and written. And paritajya, because a lot of people think that dharma means duty. So is he asking us to just give up our duty? Where throughout the Bhagavad Gita, he has been telling us to do our duty. And over here, he says, don't do your duty. No, that's not how this verse is spoken. First of all, remember there are two kinds of dharma. Material dharma and spiritual dharma. So these are based upon two different understandings of the self. If somebody leaves the material dharma, it is considered a sin because you are not doing your duty. But if a person leaves the material dharma, takes the shelter of a spiritual dharma, then it's not a sin. In the Ramayana, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the story of the Ramayana. We read that how Lakshmana renounced all material duties to accompany Lord Ram in the forest. What did he say? Guru pitu matu na janu kahu, kahau subhe nath patilahu. He just abandoned everything, but he said, I am going to go with my Lord. For what? To do the seva. He said, More sabhi ek tum swami deen bandhu ur antaryami. Ur means the heart. I do not know any teacher, father, mother, etc. As far as I am concerned, you are savior of me, knower of the heart. You are my master. You are my everything. So he let go of the lower dharma for the higher. Over here, our duty is to know ourselves. That is the higher dharma. In order to know ourselves, what do we really need to do? What is he telling us? He is telling us to withdraw your identifications with the body, mind, and intellect. That's what he's telling us. Nowhere in the entire Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna talked so directly, so openly, and expressed his divine willingness to undertake the service of his devotee, as in this verse. Sure, we cannot do this 24/7, but we can follow the teachings of this particular verse during our meditation. Let go of the identification with the body, with the mind, and the intellect. Come under the surrender of God. Unite with God. Can we do that for 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, half an hour, an hour? Strictly follow this. So there are three distinct adjustments in our inner personality he's telling us to do. Renounce all dharmas through meditation. So meditation, or the time of meditation, when we are connecting with God, take it seriously. Everything else is secondary at that time. Primary is my time with my Lord. Then second is surrender, he says, to my refuge alone while in the state of meditation. Connect with God only. Taking his refuge means totally loving him only, surrendering to him only. And the third thing he says, stop all the worries. All the worries, all the fears. At least for 15 minutes a day, no fear, just connecting with him. And as a reward, if we do these three adjustments, as a reward, he's promising. He says, I shall release you from all sins. Sins means the obstacles. So this promise is given to all mankind. Another way you can understand abandoning the dharma means and your ego. Because it's the ego that I have a beautiful body, I have a strong body, I have a female body, male body. I'm a rich person, accomplished person. Let go of that at that time. So renouncing your ego, ending your ego. So this is a verse, use it on the seat of meditation. Okay, because do not neglect it right away. We cannot do it. No. During meditation, if you do it, you will see how your personality is going to blossom. How you're going to stay connected even while doing other things, other times also. But start doing it for 15 minutes a day. Okay, so to renounce means not to allow ourselves to fall again and again in this state of identification with the outer layers of our personality, which is also called the extrovert tendency. Let go of the extrovert tendency of the mind and develop introspection diligently. Okay, this is like we got to take it seriously. See, we take the lower dharam, the material dharam, very seriously. But the spiritual dharam, we don't take it seriously. So he's telling us to turn it around. Take the spiritual dharam seriously. Mam ekam sharnam vraj. So, as I said earlier, that it is one of the most powerfully worded verses in the Gita. So we got to remind ourselves there is a mental climate of warm optimism here. Sure, we have to do something, then what we get in return is tremendous. He says, I take care of you. God, who is everywhere, who loves everybody, he says, I take care of you when you do not get under the shackles of your ego. To despair and to weep, to feel dejected, disappointed. That's how we invite all the restlessness in our mind. And that's why we never feel connected with God, even though God is there to take care of us all. So that's why this beautiful verse, Lord Krishna towards the end is telling Arjun and through Arjun to us also. And now we'll see that next few verses, he's stating some rules which we keep in our mind while we want to impart this knowledge. Because whenever we find something extraordinary, something valuable, we want to share it with others. It is a general tendency. Ordinarily, also, you see that if you have gone somewhere for vacation or to eat something or you buy something, you want to share with others that, hey, you can enjoy it too. So, this is a great philosophy where Lord Krishna is telling us, God Himself, from His own mouth, He's telling us that if you do this, there won't be any fear for you. All the obstacles will be removed. You'll be constantly peaceful. So, obviously, we want to share it with others. And that's why he's telling us if you feel like sharing, sharing is good, but there are some rules. So that's what he's saying in verse number 67. Idam tena atapkasai na abhagtyai kadachana na cha ashushrishve vachyam na cha mamya abhisuyati. Idam this. This means this great profound philosophy. Te means by you. Na means not. Tapasakaya, one who is devoid of tapasya, austerity. Na means not. Bhagatai, who is not devoted. No love for God. Kadachan, never. Na means not. Cha means and. Shrushve, to one who does not, he doesn't have any desire to listen. Shrushve, doesn't want to. There's no. He says, I don't need it. I don't want it. Do not force it on that person. Vachyam, to be spoken. Na means not. Cha means and. Mam, me. Ya means who? Abhyasuyati, who cavils at me, talks ill of me. This is never to be spoken by you to one who is devoid of austerities or devotion. Not to one who does not render service, not to one who desires not to listen, not to one who cavils at me. So this particular verse tells us that who can be benefited from Bhagavad Gita? It's not just only whom should we tell, but even to ourselves also. If we have any of these flaws, we are not going to get benefit from Bhagavad Gita. This great philosophy. So number one is tapasya. If we do not have a life of a tapasvi, we are not going to get benefit no matter how much we recite this Bhagavad Gita. So for ourselves also. So tapasya is, he mentioned tapasya very beautifully for us. At the physical level, at the mental level, at the verbal level, at the thought level. Tap is a plan which consists of conservation of our energy. That's why we don't want to talk too much. We don't want to get overtired in the material dharma. So we got to learn how to conserve our energies. Then second part of the pasya is, so whatever energy you have, you got to learn how to preserve it also. So preservation of the energies which you saved by not misusing it. And the third part of the pasya is, you got to learn how to redirect that energy. Redirection and re-employing of this newfound energy in the construction field of self-unfoldment. Because you have this energy which is very positive. What do you do with it? Send it upward during your meditation. Know yourself. Do not waste it in the lower urges. Okay, so cultivate energy, conserve energy, redirect energy. Very important. That's all part of tapa. So a person who's not interested in it, don't tell that person. But for yourself, make sure you become a better and better tapasvi. It's not that we got to look like a tapasvi, orange clothes and tilak and walk barefoot, or generally what we call a tapasvi is no. Remember these three things. That's a tapasvi, okay, according to Bhagavad Gita. And if you don't have a devotion, that means if a person doesn't even want to identify with the higher self, devotion is what? Identification with the higher self. So person is not interested in it. Person wants to just only stay in the material realm, is not going to get benefited. So for ourselves also, we got to make sure we dig deeper and deeper into who we are. And those who do not render service, Lord Krishna again and again insisted that selfless activity is not only a means for the sadhak, but this is the only way you are going to fulfill yourself. Because the seekers who are not able to serve others, what are they? They are selfish. A person who wants to just only live for himself is selfish. And what happens? They fail to enjoy the real joy, real fulfillment. So serving others is a very much part of it. So seva it should become a bigger and bigger part of our life. Selfless service. If you are doing selfless service, 1 hour a week, start doing it more than that. Actively do the service. Don't think that somebody will come and then ask me to do something, then I'll do it. No. Go out. Serve. That's what Lord Krishna is saying. Those who never murmur against me. In other words, those who are not able to respect this philosophy. Because if we don't respect the philosophy and we don't respect the teacher, we can never learn from a teacher and a philosophy. So religion or the philosophy, this kind of a deep philosophy, should not be forced upon anybody. Somebody doesn't want to listen, it's okay. Okay? So if somebody is eager to learn, definitely do teach them. So those who are entertaining a secret disrespect, sometimes inside you can tell if you are subtle enough, you'll know whether they respect this or not. If they don't waste your time. Okay, so it should not be forced upon. And it's not just outside people. Sometimes we like to just force it on the people we live with. Be careful about that too. You don't know whether they are interested or not. Don't force. Okay. So words like this is meant as instructions for the students on how to attune themselves properly so that they can get a most out of this philosophy. Okay. So that's why it's being said. Sure, we should share also, but share it wisely. And again, remember, we are trying to adjust our personality. We are trying to attach with the higher and detach from the lower. It cannot happen overnight. Okay. So this personality readjustment, which he is promising to us, is not a miracle. So there's no miracle promised in Bhagavad Gita. We have to do our part also. Now in the next verse, after telling us whom should we impart and what kind of qualities we need to cultivate if we want to benefit from this philosophy, now he's telling us in verse number 68 that what kind of benefits will accrue to a person who hands down this knowledge to others in the society. So in other words, he is definitely encouraging us to spread this knowledge because this is the real way of making a change. But he's telling us to be careful about it. But he's encouraging us at the same time. Okay, so ya imam paramam guhyam mad bhagdeshu abhidasyati bhagtim mai param kritva mam ev eshyati asanshaya. Ya means who? Imam this, paramam supreme, guhyam secret, like a profound. Mad bhagdeshu my devotees, abhidasyati teach or shall declare. Bhakti devotion, may in me, param means supreme, kritva, having done. Mam to me, ev means even, eshyati shall come, asanshaya, doubtless. See, sanshaya means doubt, asanshaya means no doubt. So Lord Krishna is declaring the consequence of properly preaching the message of Bhagavad Gita, properly. So he who with supreme devotion to me will teach this supreme secret to my devotees shall doubtless come to me. So this is the benefit for a teacher. But remember the conditions which he mentioned in the previous verse. Okay? Teach this supreme secret to my devotees, people who love me, who want to identify with me. So this verse and the next verse, they both glorify the teacher who can give the correct interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So deeply profound philosophy. That's why you need a teacher who can get the totality of the message from these verses. To whom? He says, to my devotees. So people who have a capacity to love God, people who have a capacity to identify with the ideal way of life. So it's not sufficient that the student alone has the capacity to identify himself with the higher ideal, but the teacher also should identify. Teacher should be perfectly attuned with this identification, because this is the correct spirit of this philosophy. This is tradition. Tradition is it's a Bhagavad Gita was written later on, but before Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, all the Upanishads are written and they say the same thing. This is the tradition of the Upanishads. Okay, parting advice for the students who want to become a teacher. So it's like an advice to both. What kind of a qualities you need if you want to carry this torch of knowledge in your hand. Okay, so you need to not only know, you got to walk on this path also. See, this way we are given the opportunity to engage ourselves in devotion and get a special blessings of God. Opportunity to help others, help them to get engaged on this path so that they can get a bigger blessing too. That's how we attract the grace of God. That's how we pay this debt which is on us. The debt which is called in Sanskrit Rishi Rin. Rishi means those saints who have written these scriptures. Rishis. They wrote it for us. It's our duty. We have this debt towards them to read them. Not just read them, study them. And then do some introspection. And then pass it on also. Only then we can pay this debt. We all have 3 debts on us. If we don't pay these debts, see, we talk about the debt, we get it from loans, we get it from the banks. This is bigger than that. Those we should pay definitely. But these debt towards the rishis, debt towards the parents who gave us this body, which is called a parental debt, Pitri Rin. And then the third debt is Dev Rin. Okay, these elemental forces, because of them we are here. Earth, water, fire, air, space, those 5. Go out of your way to keep it clean, because you are leaving that behind for the future generations. So we have that debt also on us. But over here he's talking about a debt towards the rishis. So studying, understanding, then bringing it into our life and imparting this knowledge, anybody who is willing to listen. Philosophy is the basis of every culture. And this Vedic culture can revive and assert its glory only when it's nurtured and nourished by us. It's our duty. This is called the mobility of intelligence. or the fluidity of inspiration. It has to keep on flowing. If Rishi Vyas didn't have it, we wouldn't have known. If our gurus did not have it, we wouldn't have known. And it's our duty to pass it on to the next generation also. Sometimes very easily we say that, oh, nobody is interested. We just wash our hands very quickly. It's our duty. This is the debt we have to pay. We got to find ways to pay this. He who is capable of conveying the truths of the Gita to others is complimented here by Lord Krishna himself. That's why he gives us the highest reward. He says, he shall doubtless come to me. That means becoming one with God. And that is the goal of life. So he is telling us the means to attain this goal. This should encourage us. And not only this, but the Lord is expressing that he loves such kind of a teacher much more than anybody else. We want to be favorite of this world. But I think instead of being favorite of this world, I would rather be favorite of Lord himself. And that's what he's telling us in the next verse. Na cha tasmat manusheshu kaschit me priye kritmah bhavita na cha me tasmat anya priye tara bhuvi. Na means not, cha means and, tasmat, then, manusheshu, among people, human beings, kaschit, any, may of me, priye kritmaha, one who does pleasing service, priye kritma. Bhavita shall be, na means not, cha means and, may means of me, tasmat means therefore or then, anya, another, priyatara, dearer, bhuvi, on the earth. Entire earth he's talking about. He says, nor is there any among people who does dearer service to me, nor shall there be another on earth dearer to me than he. That means a person who is spreading this knowledge to others. He says, he's so dear to me. To spread the idea among the people, to carry the torch of knowledge, which was lit up at the feet of the master. Always remember, our torch, if we want to carry it, we should never forget that it was lit at the feet of our Guru. Because we want to take it far and wide to provide the light everywhere else. Sometimes we just want to take it like, hey, my torch, I'm the one who lit it, it's my torch. No, always be indebted to your Guru. Be thankful. That's how the arrogance doesn't come into our mind. That it is my Guru who lit my torch and I'm lighting the others. This is called a Vidyadan. Vidyadan. We have learned that earlier. There was a chapter where a lot of sacrifices were mentioned. And the sacrifice of the Vidya, that means you are sacrificing, you are burning the ignorance with the help of the knowledge. And now, after being established in it, you are carrying it forward. It's a duty imposed on all the students. Knowledge hoarded and secreted. What happens? It becomes rotten. It's just like a water, which is, you hold the water, don't let it flow. What happens? It will start smelling. The same way the hoarded knowledge starts to smell. Just like a wealth also, hoarded wealth. It's no use to anybody. The flow needs to be there. So over here, Lord Krishna is explaining how such a person can reach him easily. He says this kind of an individual is dearest to my heart, and I find none equal to him in the whole world. So we got to look at it sincerely, honestly, try to live the principles in our own life, try to understand it, spend some time to just pass it on wherever we find a right person. Be careful about it. That's why he just a couple of verses before he told us the qualifications of a student. So not only the teacher, but even the student is congratulated here by Lord Krishna. Verse number 70. Adhyeshate cha ya imam dharmyam samvadam avyo jnana yajnena tem aham ishtahasyam iti me mati. Adhyeshyate means shall study. Cha means and, ya means who, imam this, dharmyam, sacred, samvadam, dialogue, avyo, of ours. Jnana yajna, the sacrifice of wisdom. Ten means by him, aham I, ishtaha, worshipped. Sayam, I shall have been. Iti means thus, me mati, my conviction. And he who will study this sacred dialogue of ours means Arjuna and Krishna, teacher and the taught. And he who will study the sacred dialogue of ours, by him I shall have been worshipped by the sacrifice of wisdom. Gyan yajna. This is called a Gyan yajna. Knowledge is coming and the ignorance is being burned. Gyan yajna. Such is my conviction. Lord Krishna is saying that. So Gita is glorifying even the students who are studying the sacred text. Study. Not just read, study. Sure, first reading could be like a superficially, we just want to know what's in it, but then we got to deeper delve into it. Okay, this is the charm. Sacrifice fall under 4 distinct categories. Yajna. Okay, see, when we just translate it into English, it's a sacrifice, but when I say yajna, the people who understand Sanskrit or Hindi even, you know what yajna means. Because what we are doing in yajna, sacrificing the personal profit. We are just doing something for others. Okay, we are purifying it. 4 ways. One is called vidhi. Vidhi means rituals. Just a general rituals which we do. Every day we do some rituals. That's also called a sacrifice. Second is called jap, repetition. So in the rituals, you need a lot of material. You need an outer altar. In the jap, you are doing it internally. You're connecting with God. You're purifying yourself. In a job, you are still saying something. The next level is called upamsaha. That is whispering. The person next to you may not even know what you're saying, but you're saying the name of God. So you are getting from a grosser to the subtle. And the 4th is called mansaha. You're not even whispering. It's just like a mentally. So Gyan Yagya falls under this last category. So the truth of the Bhagavad Gita has taken the roots in your inner personality and it's washing you internally, cleaning you. That's what Gyan Yagya is. So Vidhi, Jap, Upamsa, and Manasa. Manasa. So study of the scriptures, regular contemplation, and looking at the deep significances of these scriptures, they kindle the fire of knowledge. That's what happens. Because what is intelligent seeker is doing? Because in a yajna, you always have oblations. In Gyan Yajna, what is the oblation? Oblation is your own false values. You're burning your false values, you're burning your negative tendencies, and you're kindling this fire of truth. Gyan Yajna. So this is the significance of the metaphorical phrase Gyan Yajna. You're not burning the Gyan, you're burning the Agyan, the negative tendencies. So that's why Lord Krishna is declaring to us that anybody who studies Gita, contemplate upon its meaning, understanding is thoroughly, and they are sacrificing their own egocentric misconceptions about themselves and the world around them, are certainly greatest devotees to me. They're very dear to me. Is there a question? There is a subtle difference. Yes, yes,
Hersh,
yes,
Manju here.
yes.
Namaste. You just said in Gyan Yagya we are offering. Could you kindly repeat that long sentence, please?
Okay.
What are we?
You are offering, see, because Gyan Yajna is done
Oblations.
the intelligence. In Yajna, there's always oblation. So
Right.
oblations of your own false values, negative tendencies. Okay. So then I was saying that is the metaphorical meaning of Gyan Yajna. Okay. So it's a metaphor.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So
Right.
this is basically what I'm saying. A person who has studied this, say, I have studied Bhagavad Gita several times, but still there are negative tendencies. That means we need to do a little more burning. Okay, the
Thank
negative
you.
tendencies. Okay, and negative tendencies very clearly Lord Krishna mentioned in the Dev Asur Sampat Vibhag Yoga chapter. The Asuris qualities, those Rajasic and the Tamasic tendencies, we got to let go. But first we got to know what are those. That's why we got to study. After studying, then we got to practice. See, this is a subtle difference between reading and studying. Newspapers are read. And what do we do when we read? We are making an attempt to satisfy a curiosity when we read something. Right? You're curious about something, you read it. But when we use study, process of study is not just merely reading. There has to be a thirst to understand the theme. So studying of Bhagavad Gita, you really want to know what Lord Krishna is saying. Hunger to gain ourself, the perfection which is discussed. Because Lord Krishna says, you are my Ansha. You are part of me. And hunger to know that, hey, if I'm part of God, how come I don't see myself as part of God? That hunger has to be there. Only then you will study. And that happens through reflection and through practice. It's almost like if there's something rusted, like a key is rusted, what do? You heat it in the fire, or you put it into some kind of a chemical. And when all that rust is burnt with the fire or with a chemical, you wash it off and it's a new key. The same thing we do in our personality. When reacted with the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, and the reaction can happen only when you study, not just reading, not just holding Bhagavad Gita in your hand. It can happen only with the study. So when reacted with the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, wrong tendencies, unhealthy vasanas, false sense of ego, which have been growing with this agyan, with this ignorance, not knowing ourselves, all get burnt up with the help of the gyan, right knowledge. Okay, that's why they call it a gyan yagya. Okay, got to burn these wrong tendencies. We don't want to just keep them over there. We want to burn them. And now in the next verse, Lord Krishna is indicating even listening to the Gita. This was a study of a Bhagavad Gita. First, the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. The teacher was glorified. Then the student who studies is glorified. Now some people cannot study. They don't get a chance to study. So he will tell us just a mere reading what benefit a student can have. So we'll start next class with verse number 71. Let me say the mantra, the Shanti mantra. And after that, if you have any question, comment, we'll go through that. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Anybody has any question?